Welcome to the Sykes & Company PA video blog. I'm speaking with Ollin Sykes, and today we're talking about the importance of pharmacy prescription logs. Good morning, Ollin.
Good morning, Rachel. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, ma'am.
Excellent. So I hear that you have a lot to tell us about pharmacy prescription logs, whether or not they have inventory control rolled in with them, and the impact on the gross margins.
Well, that's what you just said is a lot, because there's a lot contained in that. But I would just tell you that our normal procedure in working with the pharmacies that are clients of ours is to request their month-end audit logs. In fact, actually on April 30th, I sent out an email to all our pharmacies and said, please, at the close of business, April 30th, the last thing you do in the day, go ahead and run your monthly audit logs. And what that does, and of course, there are a number of prescription computer systems that are on the marketplace, but I actually have one in front of me. And this particular one that I have in front of me is a QS1 system report, and essentially it breaks down the scripts between new and refills, and gives me key statistics that are very important. It really become the nerve center for determining profitability in a pharmacy. In this particular case here, I'm looking at a pharmacy that is showing a 17% gross margin before rebates. Now, I can just tell immediately on this particular pharmacy we have some issues, and that we're about 2 to 3 to 4 percentage points low. And this particular pharmacy probably does about $5 million a year in volume, and so clearly there's some profitability issues there, because 1% of $5 million is $50,000. So every percentage point we can increase there makes a humongous difference. And you might say, well, how can you tell from these margins and from these reports whether somebody's out of line? And I first look at this case. It breaks it down between cash, which are obviously a very small part of the scripts that are being filled today, typically around 5%, although some pharmacies we have are over 10% still, Medicaid, and third party. A lot of times the Medicaid and the third-party scripts are tied together. But I see in this particular case, I got a retail percentage only 42% for the month. Now, I will tell you from the broad base of clients, pharmacy clients we have across the country, that number is probably averages about 55%. So I can tell that pharmacist that he's probably 10 or 12, 13% under on the few retail cash scripts that he preps. And you might not think that makes a big difference, but it makes a humongous difference when you do it on a blended basis with literally thousands of scripts over the course of the month. He also has about a 16% third party rate. So when you take the third party rate and the Medicaid rate and the retail rate, he blends out at 17. But our goal here in this instant case, which I'm familiar with, is we're trying to do everything we can to increase margins, because that's the number one thing that a pharmacist can actually control. As many pharmacists think that the PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, have control of their lives, and certainly they do to a great degree, there's a certain amount of pricing flexibility they have, and they can control this much grander than they believe that they can. But we look at average price of scripts. We look at average margin per scripts on a dollar basis. We look at things like the percentage of new and refills. You might say, well, why does that make a difference? Well, I can tell you that in our exponential growth stores, our guys are doing 52, 55, 56% new scripts. And our stores that are dying, we're maybe at 40, 41% new scripts. And then a more mature store may be 45, 46% new, and the reciprocal of that in refills. So I can get a real good feel just looking at those numbers as an example, whether the store is dying, whether it's in a growth mode, and obviously from the margins, I can see exactly what we have to do. And we're not even talking about taxes here. We're talking about maximizing the wealth creation and wealth benefits that we can provide to the pharmacies, and looking at these kinds of numbers. So there's just a wealth of information here. And then I'm going to continue on just a minute, please. I really get going on this topic because it's really near to my heart. But I also like to look at the April from 12 versus the April of 13. I also like to run the January through April of 13 versus the same period for 12 to get to look at how we're doing vis-a-vis prior year, both in terms of numbers of scripts, margins, all the same stats that I just mentioned. But this one-page report right here that I've got, it's all it is. It's one page. It is a critical barometer of what the problems are, and I can read literally the lifeblood of this pharmacy in this one-page script report each month.
That's amazing. Are there specific script systems that people should be running to help generate this kind of report, or will almost any system run it?
Most pharmacists know this, but most of the more popular systems that are out there, the QS1s, the RX30s, the Pioneers, Compute RXs, McKesson Enterprise Systems, I mean, there are a ton of them that are out there, but those are probably some of the top 4 or 5 that we see. Most systems have these reports as part of their normal processes. Now, I will tell you, without being any more specific than that some of the systems have far better reporting capabilities than others. And typically the ones that are more Windows-based have a lot more flexibility to run a whole variety of reports. We obviously like to be able to drill down on various things. So, I mean, that's very important.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like whatever system they have, they can run some kind of report, and then it's all up from there.
Right.
And then are if they haven't really been looking at these reports, are there things that you would recommend that they go look at right now?
Absolutely. Critical things are the percentage of generic fills to the total fills. We're seeing some of them more with to give you some idea, Rachel, and you may not be aware of this, but most pharmacies on brand drugs, the kinds of things you see advertised on TV every night when you turn the TV on, the pharmacies are only getting 7 to 8% margins typically on those drugs. Whereas a Lipitor that now is generic, that would be considered a generic fill now, and those pharmacies may be getting 50+%, as I mentioned earlier, on the margins. Well, now granted. And I'm a Lipitor 10 milligram user, I will say that. And I used to pay like $175 for 10 milligrams monthly, and now my copay is, $15 a month. But I can tell you my pharmacist is making just about as much money on that $15 copay as he made almost on that brand drug that he was buying direct from Pfizer that he now can buy from a whole host of providers. So the percentage, but the point is this, the higher the percentage of generic refills and fills, typically the higher margins we're seeing, because it's taking their patient consumers more off of brand drugs and putting them on generics and increasing their total aggregate blended margins. And that's why it's also critically important. Critically important. And I just thinking last week, I saw some down in the mid-70s on generics, and I saw one that was 92% generic. Wow. And I don't need to tell you that the one that was 92% had a much higher gross blended margin rate than the one that has 75% generic. There's a lot of stories I have on those topics. But this prescription log issue is a major thing, and I'm surprised and shocked, frankly, when we pick up new pharmacy clients that we meet at various shows and conventions that we go to, and the NCPA new ownership workshops that we attend and speak at. How many folks just don't have a clue about the very basic things that we're talking about right here and how critical they are, and the fact they do have much more control in that area than they believe that they do. And it is a single, gross margins in pharmacies is a single most important area of control that a pharmacist has in controlling their lives and the ability to generate net income and build wealth in the ownership of a pharmacy.
That's got to be exciting news to a lot of the independent pharmacy owners that you work with.
It is. It's very exciting.
Excellent. Well, thanks for taking the time to explain that to us and the importance of prescription logs in general.
My pleasure.